Good morning. My name is Richard Badenhausen. I'm so glad that you've joined us for this morning's discussion, which is going to be a lot of fun. I'm the Dean of the Honors College at Westminster, and I'm going to roll right into a presentation. So I'm going to share my screen with you right now. Okay, great. So this is my 20th year at the college, and each year is really better than the previous one. Westminster is such a wonderful place to work with students, and I'm really happy to talk about what I love during the Q&A if you'd like. Certainly have a lot to say about that. I want to spend about 10 minutes giving you an overview of the Honors College. Very high level, just so you have a sense of where you might fit into our community. And then if the opportunity seems like it's attractive to you, we can certainly talk more. During the recruiting process, we emphasize giving students as much information as possible that will let you decide whether or not Honors at Westminster is a good fit. My colleague, Julie Stewart, will then talk a bit about what it's like working with Honors students from the perspective of a faculty member. She teaches a variety of different Honors seminars in the Honors College. And she also directs a very cool program called the Customized Major, which is something she'll certainly want to talk about. And then you'll hear from two current honors students who will share their perspectives on what it's like to be a student in the college. Rebecca Ford and Leah Baez are both experienced leaders in honors, and they'll give you a great sense of what it's like to take advantage of the many opportunities in our college. And then we'll have about 20 or so minutes for your questions, which you should feel free to add to the chat at any time. My colleague, Alexa Price, who's an admissions counselor you'll work with if you apply to the Honors College, will moderate that chat. So let's get to the slideshow. So what is Honors? Honors can mean many different things depending on which college you're at. And if you're looking at other honors programs and colleges, you probably want to ask questions because there's a great diversity of models out there. For us at Westminster, honors provides basically one of two pathways through the general education requirements at Westminster. You can do the W Corps or you can do honors. Each pathway satisfies all of your general education requirements. Honors is very distinctive from W Corps primarily in four ways. First of all the courses you'll take in the Honors College are team taught. There's two faculty from different disciplines in each of the classrooms, and you can see an example of that right here from a course called Science, Power, and Diversity, where we have a faculty member from Philosophy and Gender Studies teaching with a faculty member from Biology. And the reason we have two faculty in the classroom is that we're driving conversation across those different disciplinary perspectives, which is a really cool way to learn. So instead of just being in a single English class or a single philosophy class, we're going to think about the manner in which disciplines interact with each other. So team teaching, that's one distinctive feature. A second distinctive feature is the entire curriculum is interdisciplinary. So instead of taking the single course, we're going to put two courses together and live in that gray space between the relationship of those courses. So you might take a course called Human Culture and Behavior, which is taught by a neuroscientist and a sociology professor. That course looks at why human beings behave the way they do. And the sociology perspective is going to be very different from the perspective of a neuroscientist. The third feature is that we only use primary texts. So instead of textbooks where an editor is mediating your interaction with the material, telling you what to think, we're going to have you jump in the deep end of the pool and think about how your values inform your sense of those texts. And we want to help you make better arguments that reflect your values, your positions on these features. And then finally, the course is built around student conversation. So instead of me doing what I'm doing right now, telling you what to think, we're going to actually teach you how to have conversations across difference. Students sitting around the table come from all different majors. They're going to have different perspectives, and so we're going to help you get better at talking across those differences. We like to think of honors as a college-wide learning community. There's an incredible sense of belonging amongst our students, and that's reflected in their level of engagement. So who can do honors? As I said, it doesn't matter what major, you can do honors no matter what the major. You'll major in a particular discipline while also doing honors, satisfying your gen ed requirements through there. There's two pathways through honors. You can do an honors certificate, which would be 6 of these interdisciplinary seminars, which satisfy your entire gen ed. If you want to do the next level of honors, you would do an honors degree. So you would actually graduate from Westminster. Say you did a environmental studies degree, you would get a degree which would be an honors BS in environmental studies or an honors BFA. This is a wonderful picture from a recent annual diversity lunch where Han Kim and Sabi Lauder were recognized as 2 diversity leaders on campus. We always recognize 1 faculty and 1 honors student, and in this case, the faculty member teaches in the honors college, and the student was an honors student who happened to be the student body president at the time. Han Kim, by the way, is an epidemiologist. He runs a brown bag each week talking about COVID. That's a brown bag that's open to the entire community. We have people chiming in from across the country listening to Han's perspective about the COVID emergency. So honors, as I said, is very different across the country, and we're very distinctive in terms of how we approach honors community. You'll find that in many cases, honors colleges emphasize perks, flying first class, you get priority enrollment and other things that separate you out from the rest of the student body. We don't do that here. We're really focused on an innovative learning environment, and we treat honor students just the way we treat all students across campus. You're Westminster students first, and you participate in the honors college. In terms of admission, we don't use test scores or GPA cutoffs. We're really focused on a holistic approach to admission, and we really want to find students for whom honors is a good fit. If you're attracted to conversational learning, interdisciplinary approaches, community, then honors is probably a good fit for you. As I said, we integrate students into campus life. We don't separate our students in dedicated dorms on the edge of campus. Our students live in dorms across campus with roommates in honors and outside of honors. And as I said, really what honors is about is an academic experience where we're challenging you in a very supportive environment. In terms of applying to honors, there's 2 deadlines. The November 30th priority deadline, you'll have a decision by the holidays, and then April 2nd is the final deadline. We'll ask you 2 short answers, and then you'll have to answer a longer essay question from a choice of 4. And these will be questions that you probably haven't encountered before in admissions process to other colleges or honors programs. We try to give you a decision within 3 weeks after the January 1st deadline. If you apply by the priority deadline, as I said, you'll have a decision by the holidays. We strongly encourage you to have a conversation with me if some of these things seem of interest to you. And there's also a scholarship program. We have academic excellence scholarships in the amount of $5,000, which you can apply for separately. And those applications are due February 1st. We have about 240 honor students on campus. We typically admit cohorts of about 40 to 50 first-year students, and then we also have a transfer cohort. About half our students are from out of state, about 3/4 identify as female, and you can see some of the test score GPA averages below. But as I said, we don't emphasize those during the admissions process. Diversity and inclusion and access are core values for us in honors. We really see honors as an engine for access, and as a result, our honor students are overrepresented in programs like the McNair Scholars, Clemente program, Legacy Scholars, which serves first-generation students. In our curriculum, we reflect our interest and focus on diversity by not having a one-off diversity requirement, but diversity is a thread that runs through our entire curriculum. Happy to continue the conversation, and I'd just like to finish with two pictures. The one on the left is of future honor students. These are students who visited campus a few years ago to just understand what college looked like, and they were spending time with my dog. And the young gentleman there who has a big smile, he said, you know what, if I can bring my dog to campus, then I want to be a college professor when I grow up, just like you. And then on the right, those are two honors graduates, alums, and they were the first dog sitters of our dog scout. And Ben on the left is off at MIT now. He and his team at MIT, he has a PhD in astrophysics, just actually discovered a new planet, which they named the Pi planet because it rotates around its star every 3.14 days. Anyway, we'd love to have you connect with us and talk more about honors if any of this seems attractive. And I'm going to throw it to my colleague, Julie Stewart, who's a longtime faculty member in the Honors College.
Okay, cool. Thanks, thanks, Richard. That was awesome. I always love hearing how Richard describes the Honors College because I always learn a little bit about an element that I hadn't thought about before, and yeah, it's cool to be here. I'll just briefly tell you about myself. I'm an associate professor in the Honors College. I'm a sociologist, and I mostly focus on political sociology. So I'm really interested in how people come together or not to think about politics and policies and all of the important decisions that really shape how we live our lives. Today, though, and as Richard mentioned, I also direct the customized major program at Westminster, which is a cool program that allows students to design their own major, and I'll talk about that in a couple of minutes. But for the first off, I just have a couple of slides, and so I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully that's Richard. Will you give me a thumbs up? Is it showing? Okay, awesome. So yeah, so the prompt I was asked to respond to as someone who's taught in honors for a long time is, what do I love about teaching in the Honors College at Westminster? That to me was a really easy question to answer because the answer is the students. So what I wanted to do today is tell you a little bit about 3 students. And then hopefully that will give you a sense of some of the many cool things that students in honors are doing here at Westminster. I just got a little notification saying my network is not good, but I'm hoping you can hear me because I don't have a different network to slide into. So I'm just going to jump right into this. Or maybe not. Okay, so basically, I wanted to share with you 3 student profiles, and I have worked with dozens of students, current and graduated over the years. I have such incredible affection and admiration for my students, so it was a little bit hard to figure out, well, who should I spotlight? So these are 3 students that came to mind, but I just want you to know I could have come up with any number of other students because there are so many remarkable students in honors. But let me tell you a little bit about Leanne Kupel. So Leanne Kupel is a competitive rock climber. She will be a graduate of the class of 22. She's a psychology major and a sociology minor. I first met Leanne when she volunteered to help with academic decathlon in 2019. Honor students do a lot of service work, both on campus and off campus. One of the cool traditions that we've maintained for many years is hosting the regional academic decathlon competition, which basically brings 16 different local high schools to campus to participate in a series of academic competitions. Leanne was awesome as a volunteer, and that's when I first got to know her. We also run each year a writing competition, and basically we invite students to submit the best work they've written in a particular year, and then we have a panel of Honors faculty, staff, and students read all of the papers and determine which ones kind of rise to the top. And so Leanne's paper last year won both her individual category, and then she also got the all-round winner. And it was such an incredible paper. It basically looked at the ways in which sort of whiteness, the sort of orthodoxy of whiteness makes people of color feel inferior and makes them do things that are counterproductive to their health. It was just a thought-provoking, really insightful paper, and she won money for it. So that's a cool thing that we do in honors. Finally, Leanne's a student currently in my data society and decision-making class. And this class basically looks at the ways that humans use data or don't to make decisions, both from the individual scale all the way up to the macro scale. And Leanne's work has thus far been so excellent that I invited her to be my research assistant on a project looking at the ways in which Latinx voters respond to political threats and either vote or don't. So we're currently engaged in that project, and I'm really excited to see what we come up with. So my next student is Abigail Rampton. Abigail was she's a recent grad. She graduated in 2020. She's a political science major and a sociology minor. Abigail was she was an intern for Patrice Arendt in the Utah State Legislature, and Patrice Arendt is one of she recently retired, but she was an incredible advocate for clean air in the legislature. And Patrice told me that Abigail was her best intern ever, and that didn't surprise me in the least, because Abigail was a phenomenal student. She took a lot of sociology classes with me. Based on her excellent work, I invited her to join me on a summer research project, which was funded, and the title of that project was Seeking Power, a study of who influences the Utah solar industry. So we really kind of dive deep into understanding sort of the regulatory policies around solar power in Utah. It was a really cool project, and we actually submitted some of our evidence to public hearings as some of those decisions were made. Abigail did multiple internships. One of them was with the Project Homeless Connect. She ended up doing her senior thesis on how Salt Lake City was responding to the crisis of people without homes. And just recently, she applied to the University of Utah S.J. Quinney College of Law. She was accepted with a full scholarship, which is so rare. So I was just like so incredibly thrilled that Abigail got not only accepted to an incredibly selective program, but that she got a full ride. So Abigail is just an incredibly impressive person. And I joke with her that we got to keep the Ruth Bader Ginsburg position open, so because Abigail is going to take it. We'll see what happens. That may not happen. Time may not be in her favor on that one, but finally, my last student I want to highlight is Maggie Ruggier. So Maggie also was a 2020 grad. I met Maggie when she took her first honors course as a lateral entry student. She's just an amazing person. We got to work together even more closely when she developed her own customized major in community health. This basically, in her case, combines public health, communication, and theater. And if you want to learn more about the customized major, or her particular major in particular, she gave a talk about it at Westminster Thinks Big, which is our version of like TED Talks. She did a great job, so I'll put the link into the chat. Maggie's a political animal. She volunteered for Stan Penfold's mayoral campaign. She interned with the Democratic Party of Utah. She was elected ASW Student Body President last year, so that's our Associated Students of Westminster. And she currently works at Westminster in, oops, you know what? I think I just popped out of my slides, but that is cool because I'm done. She currently works in alumni management at Westminster. And I think together, what I would say about these students is they fully take advantage of all of the many opportunities and honors to engage in deep thinking in their seminars, to do research, to get engaged in extracurricular activities, and to serve their communities both on campus and off campus. And that's why I love teaching in honors. So now I'm going to pass the baton over to Rebecca Ford, another amazing student leader in honors, also a winner of one of our writing awards, and an amazing volunteer in academic decathlon, and so many other things.
Thanks, Julie. Hi, everybody. My name is Rebecca Ford, and I am a current senior in the Honors College. I'm a neuroscience major as a pre-med student, so I'm hoping to go to medical school next year. And one of my main roles in honors is I'm serving as the lateral entry peer mentor coordinator this year. So when new students enter honors, they're all paired with students who have been in honors for at least a year, so that they have a peer mentor who can guide them through honors and getting involved on campus. And I am the coordinator for that peer mentor program for our lateral entry students, so students who join honors as non-first year students. And I'm here today to talk to you all a little about my student experience in honors, and you'll get to hear from one of my fellow students, Leah, in a minute, for a second perspective. What I just really want to emphasize about my honors experience, now being in my 4th year, is how much of an emphasis honors places on creating well-rounded individuals who are ready for really anything that life can throw at them. Like I said, I'm a neuroscience major. I love neuroscience. I love my pre-med track. I wouldn't think of doing anything else, but that is very specific. The things that I learned in my honors science or my neuroscience courses are pretty narrow in their scope of where it's going to help me. The skills that I have learned in honors, particularly the communication skills, so much of your honors classes are learning how to verbally and through writing communicate effectively, communicate very concisely and clearly, and make complex arguments about complex ideas. That is applicable in every area of your life. There's never a time that you're going to regret being a better communicator or being able to handle kind of complex situations and complex ideas. And so what I love most about honors is that it is applicable to so many areas of your lives, and because of that, it's attractive to so many different people. And so I've met such a range of individuals through honors. I've made so many friends from all walks of life, and I feel like I've just had such an enriched college experience through that. With that being said, honors is so much more than just an academic experience. There's so much outside of the classroom. We're a very tight-knit community. Many of my closest friends are in honors. We have a lot of community building activities. Part of that comes through the peer mentor programs that I help with. And so honors is not only an academic experience, but somewhere that you can meet people who are also looking to make a difference in this world, looking for people who like to have their ideas questioned and learn about other perspectives. And I think that's just such a wonderful experience to have in college when you're kind of trying to find who you are and what you want to do. Yeah, I think that is kind of what I wanted to touch on. I'd be happy to answer any more specific questions in the Q&A, but now I will turn it over to my fellow honors student, Leah Baez, to give you her perspective.
Thank you, Rebecca. So I'm really excited to be here with you all today. I really love talking about honors because it has been such a huge part of my college experience. And I think without the Honors College, my experience wouldn't be what it has been up to now in my senior year. So I am the SHC, which is the Student Honors Council Vice President. And what the Student Honors Council does is we create programming and events for students to help foster more of that community aspect that Rebecca touched on. And also to give the students kind of the ability to socialize and interact with each other day to day and week to week, which is important, we found, especially during this time of the pandemic, even though we can only socialize virtually, right? I've also been a peer mentor in the past, so I was part of the program that Rebecca now helps run. And I really love the peer mentor program. It helped me a lot my first year, and it was nice to be able to help students coming in as well. So I'm a political science major, and I focused my studies in pre-law. So really, I studied a lot in justice studies, in the social sciences, and in global studies. And I've loved my academic experience so far. But really, I want to talk about classes and honors. I really can't stress enough how important the conversations we have in class are. Rebecca touched on how important it is to learn to communicate, and I think honors really does that for us in teaching us how to talk with each other, how to have tough conversations, and also how to express ourselves in written form. But also the conversations we have are so critical, and they're so applicable to the issues that we face in society today. That's really what I love about honors. We're not afraid to touch on tough conversations. We're not afraid to have those conversations and to give voice to those who typically don't have a voice. So the students in honors, like Richard said, that we're really diverse, and we give each other space to really express how we feel and express how different communities interact with different issues. So I think that's also a really important part of that interdisciplinary part of coursework. Not only are the professors that teach our courses are interdisciplinary in the fields of study that they come from, but our students also add some of that interdisciplinary aspect as well. And then the last thing I wanted to say is that the best mentors I've had in college are professors in the Honors College. I've noticed they're truly committed to being a voice for students, and also in giving us opportunities that really we wouldn't get anywhere else. I've had the opportunities to present research, to go to conferences, and all of that was through the Honors College. And so I'm really grateful for that, but I also recognize the effort that our professors and the effort that Richard and Steph put into running the Honors College to make it the way it is. And so again, I'm also available to answer any questions you might have, and I'll put my email too in the chat in case you want to email me with any questions.
That's great. Well, thank you, Julie, Rebecca, and Leah for your perspectives, which are super. And I think now we'll take some questions. I think Alexa, were you going to verbalize questions, or do you want us to just pull from the chat? Okay, just type. All right, so one question is, I always thought of honors as being for people who are smart. Now I'm understanding it to be something that looks good on a resume. Whoops, I just lost that question. Okay, what was the most difficult thing about being an honor student? So that's a good question for Leah and Rebecca. Leah, do you want to take that first?
Of course. So one of the most difficult things, I think I have two. The first one was adjusting to being an honor student. It's a really different experience in how you interact with your classmates and how you interact with your professors than it is maybe coming out of high school or even in other classes around campus. So learning that class is going to be based on you talking to each other and not just the professor giving you a lecture, and learning how to participate in that context. And then I think the second thing for me was really learning how to be a better writer. That was tough for me. So in my first year, I had to go to a lot of office hours with my professors. I had to go to the writing center on campus a lot, which is also run by an honors professor, Chris Lecluse. And that helped me a lot, even though that writing part was really difficult for me at first.
Okay, Rebecca, do you want to take a crack at that question?
Sure. My response is really going to mirror what Leah just said, but you definitely have to adjust to kind of a new way of being a student and being a writer and a communicator in honors. And so part of that transition is learning that you need to make that transition, that maybe the way you learn to communicate in high school can be modified to be more applicable to all situations. And so you have to relearn how to write, relearn how to have a conversation in a classroom, relearn how to think critically about your ideas and the ideas that other people are presenting to you. And that was certainly a bit of a transition, because you have to admit to yourself that there are areas that you need to improve, and that the way you're doing it now is not the best way to be doing it. And then we also kind of touch on this, but I'm a naturally more quiet person, and in honors, the classes are almost entirely discussion based. And so it's really important to speak up and be able to make your voice heard, but also be able to interact, a two-way dialogue with other people. And so there was a slight transition for me having to be comfortable speaking up, but I'm so glad that I joined honors and learned how to do that, because I'm now so much more confident in non-academic settings when I have to do that exact same thing. It's very applicable to real life situations. I'm much more confident in my ability to have a discussion and to build off other people's ideas.
That's great, thanks. The other question, which I was reading, which is a super important question, the previous question talked about the conception of honors students as smart. And I think in high school, often honors is associated with smart, whatever that means. But I think at least at Westminster, when we talk about honors, we're talking about more a different kind of learning environment that's going to be appropriate for a wide number of different students. And so I think, because of that emphasis, we tend to draw on, Leah mentioned this earlier, we tend to draw a very diverse student body in the Honors College. So I was hoping that maybe Rebecca, you go first this time, and then Leah could follow up. Talk about the different types of students who come to honors, because I often emphasize they're student athletes, they're in theater, they're editors of the newspaper. Just maybe talk about the different ways in which you interact with different communities in and outside honors.
I think that the beauty of honors is that you can't really define the type of students who come to honors, because everyone comes to honors. There are people in honors from literally all corners of campus. And that's what makes it so great, is I know if I were to want to get involved in really anything on campus, or if I were to want, need assistance in a certain area, I would be able to find an honors student who is not only has experience with that. So whether it be sports or theater or music or different, the Diversity and Inclusion Center, the Environmental Center, really anything on campus, I would be able to find an honors student involved in that. But I would also be able to find an honors student in probably like a leadership role in that, because honors students don't just get involved in stuff. They really take active roles and try to make their experience with those the best that they can be. And so our honor students have so many leadership roles around campus. And so I know that through being in honors, I have access to the most involved individuals on campus, which is just such a great resource to have.
Yeah, I'll second what Rebecca just said.
Let's get you on the screen first, Leah. There we go. Okay, you're good now.
There I am. Thank you. So yeah, I was going to second what Rebecca said. So all honors students are incredibly involved on campus, and really being a part of honors goes beyond what looks good on a resume or who's the smartest. It's not like a competition of that. Like for me, at least, I'm not a genius. I'm almost never the smartest person in a room. But honors has taught me that I can engage with my community and that I have important ideas to offer always. And that I have the ability to communicate my ideas and my kind of train of thought. And going back to what Rebecca was saying about honor students being involved on campus, it's true. We have really incredible opportunities that come through to us through honors. And also I feel like honors just kind of teaches you to get out there and to really kind of brand yourself and communicate why you would be a valuable asset to. Like for me, I've worked with the Dumpke Center for Civic Engagement as political engagement coordinator, and that role really, I knew how to engage in a role like that, even though it was really challenging because of what I had learned in honors about how to communicate and how to plan and organize. I'm a part of Legacy Scholars, as are a few people in honors, and Legacy Scholars is the first generation student cohort on campus. So for people who are the first in their family to go to college. And I have friends who are a part of honors that are activists in the community. They're part of the refugee community. They're part of the immigrant community, the Black community, the Latinx community, the Asian community. And beyond that ethnic representation, I think some of the long-term benefits of doing honors is that you gain so many different perspectives, because again, you're not just learning from your professors, you're learning from your students. And when that student body is so diverse, you get so many different perspectives. So your eyes are really open to the world, which is really important moving forward for your life in general.
That's great. So we have, let's see, we have a question about a competitive honors application, and yeah, what does a competitive honors application look like, which is a really good question. And as I said, I want to distinguish between what you might run into at some other honors colleges, where it's really, well, here's a GPA, here's a test score, there's a grid, you're either in or out. And as I said, given our commitment to diversity, the need for having a very diverse group of students sitting around the seminar desk, because that makes for a richer conversation, we really take a holistic approach to honors applications. And we're digging into your essays, your short answers, the curriculum you've taken in high school. We're interested in students who are stretching themselves, who are curious, who are attracted to interdisciplinarity, who are open for new academic adventures, who've written very good essays, who've taken some time on their essays, and we get a sense of who those students are as people, as individuals. We want that to come out on the writing. And as I said, the questions are going to be a little different than the typical questions you might run into on a standard college application. You'll see they're really thought exercises. And that's important too. That levels the playing field so that everyone can answer an application that involves a thought exercise, as opposed to something that asks you about your volunteer experience, which is going to privilege those students who might have more time to devote to volunteers. Maybe other students who are supporting their families through jobs, might not necessarily have those opportunities to volunteer. So we're very conscious of attending to issues of access and equity in the application process. So yeah, and if you have any questions about the honors application process, by all means, reach out to me or Alexa. There is a interesting question about struggling with test taking, even though I do well in my classes. How would I tackle this problem as an honors student? And there's another question about any majors being off the table. That's an easy one. There's no majors off the table. I'm going to say a word about the test taking in honors, and then I'll ask Leah to go first, and then Rebecca to talk about the typical manner in which your learning is assessed in your honors seminars, because at least in the classes I teach in honors, we don't use tests per se. There's a lot of emphasis on writing. The final exercise, the final assessment exercise, is actually a 15-minute conversation with the two professors in the class. So I think what you'll find are quite innovative approaches to measuring student learning and supporting students in that process. But yeah, Leah, do you want to maybe say a word about the different ways in which honors student learning is assessed in seminars, and then Rebecca could also jump in.
Yeah, of course. So in my first honors seminars, when I took them, they were called Welcome to Thinking 1 and 2, which is basically your honors entry-level courses. And like Richard said, I never had to take a test. Actually, no honors course that I've ever taken required tests. But yeah, so at the end of my first 2 seminars, we had a 15-minute conversation, which was called the final conversation. And that really just gauges your understanding of the material. And you basically just sit down and you talk with your professors. They have questions for you to answer, and you answer them just like you were talking to someone in your class. So it's really, you prepare, and obviously it helps when you do the readings throughout the semester and you keep up with all your writing assignments, because you know the material. So if you know the material, you really have nothing to worry about because you're just talking. And then in the more advanced honor seminars, so like I've taken human culture and behavior, which I'm in right now. I've taken global welfare and justice, among others. And in different seminars, they do different ways of like gauging you. So I've done essays, and then I've done like final project, which is like a personal presentation that you just present in front of the class. In some seminars, we do debates, which you have a team and you debate with another team on a topic that you've touched on extensively in class. So there's no testing, and I find that as a relief as well. I'm not a very good test taker, and your professors really prepare you well for the assignments that you do have to do.
Great, thank you. Rebecca?
Yeah, like Leah said, I've never taken a test in honors. I've never taken a quiz in honors. All of the kind of evaluations of my learning have been writing, discussions, conversations, projects, presentations. And so there's no need to be concerned about test taking in honors. And I think that if you are someone who struggles with test taking, honors might be an even richer experience for you, because I feel that in my experience, the people who typically struggle taking tests feel that can be a confidence hit, because you feel like you're not being able to show your learning as well as you would like. And so in honors, when you have so many different ways to show what you're learning and show how you're growing as a student, I think that can really build your confidence, because it's not just how well you can take a multiple choice test, it's how well you can communicate your ideas.
All right, thank you. I want to bring Julie Stewart in here to talk a bit about what it's like teaching with another faculty member in the classroom, and maybe Julie can maybe capture how unusual that is to have a colleague from a different discipline, and also the excitement of teaching in an interdisciplinary format, because I'm sure students maybe don't have experience with that. And then maybe mention the customized major for a minute, because of course that's an interdisciplinary program as well that honor students are overrepresented in, because we tend to attract students who have a wide range of interests.
Yeah, cool. I'm live. There we go.
Yes. Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, so I think one of the things that brings a lot of energy into our honors seminars is the interdisciplinarity. So one of the classes that I've taught, data society and decision making, I've taught with an epidemiologist, I've taught it with a neuroscientist, I've taught it with a math professor, I've taught it with a professor of marketing and a professor of management. And so each time I teach that class, it's different, because the background that my co-teacher brings infuses that class with like a different set of tools and different kinds of conversations, even though we always kind of circulate around these big questions of how data shapes our decisions and how we understand data, but like there's always like these different angles that each faculty member brings in, which is really cool. In similar fashion, I always teach Welcome to Thinking, and I have taught that with an Egyptologist, with a neuroscientist, with a linguist and an English professor. I've taught it with a philosopher. So again, like based on that teaching partnership, there's so many cool conversations, and I've learned, like, I really feel like I know so much more about each of those topics now because I've taught with those folks. I also happen to serve as the Assistant Director of Teaching, Learning, and Assessment. So I actually see how every person in honors assesses student learning, and I've never once come across a test. So I can actually give you a kind of a comprehensive answer to that question about tests and tell you I've never actually even seen one in the many years I've done assessment. So, but what I have seen is just really cool projects and portfolios, and yeah, I find that the way that we as faculty and honors approach learning and assessing learning, like we're really focusing on sort of like a holistic understanding, not like memorized facts, regurgitate and forget them. Like that is the last thing that we value. So interdisciplinarity is just at the center of the honors experience. And it is why I think, as Richard mentioned, so many students end up designing their own majors. And I'll just say a couple of things about customized majors. What you can do with a customized major is you can, let's say you love science and you're pre-med, but you also love art. You can design a major maybe in scientific illustration, which a recent honors grad did, where she did all of her pre-med requirements. So she's ready for med school if she chooses to do that. But she also was able to incorporate art into her major so that she really is proficient in that. And that's and basically she's kind of on the fence of whether or not she wants to go to med school or actually do an advanced degree in scientific illustration. By designing her own major, she's like perfectly positioned to follow either route. So that's just one example of combining two areas that you might not necessarily think combine really well, but actually do so very beautifully. Students have designed majors in environmental philosophy, in disability justice, in community justice, in I had a student who did basically a customized major around conservation. So it was environmental studies and philosophy and public policy. There's just a kind of almost an unlimited number of ways that students can approach their learning, and the customized major is super flexible. So it does end up being something that a lot of honors students do. And the other thing I would say is that my students who do customized majors typically have even more successful postgraduate outcomes than conventional majors, whether we're talking about acceptance into grad school, getting a great job right out of the box, doing really rich experiences. So again, I could tell you dozens and dozens of stories, but typically the kind of student who designs their own major is the kind of student who's going to take advantage of all the opportunities that are available, and they do amazing things post-graduation. So that's yeah, so definitely would be psyched to talk with anyone about that. I have put my email in the chat, so reach out to me, please.
Great, thank you, Julie. We have about 5 minutes left, so I'm going to try and bang through a quick number of these questions. There's a question about the number of primary texts, the nature of the primary text in the first year seminar. The first year seminar is a year-long seminar, so there's an incredible sense of belonging to a cohort that's coming in and sharing this same experience. The first year seminars are always designed around a theme that changes each year. This year's theme is wandering. We've done borders, we've done friendship, mortality, and it leads to a really rich sense of connection to a theme that runs through the whole year. Gosh, we're reading a book right now by Emily St. John Mandel, a novel which actually jumps off from a global pandemic. It was written 5 years ago, so very prescient. So a wonderful story about art and humanity and community being redemptive. We just finished up a historical novel by Daniel Kellman, a German writer, called Till. We're going to read Suketu Mehta's book called This Land is Our Land, an Immigrant's Manifesto. And we also have students do a common read. So you'll, with your cohort, as you come in to join our community, all of you will read a book over the summer and then have a conversation with peer mentors at orientation. There's a question about feeling overwhelmed. It seems like there's so much going on amongst honors students. I think a lot of our students feel that because they tend to be active volunteers and be active on campus, but know that you have this rich support system. There's an early orientation for honor students. You have peer mentors like Leah and Rebecca who are going to help you make that transition to college. You have additional advisors outside your major, myself and Stephanie Santa Rosa, the assistant director, here with you for 4 years following through your journey. So we have a lot of conversations in the Tuesday conversation, which the first year class meets every Tuesday night, your first semester, to talk through some of these feelings that you might be having. And in that programming, there's a wellness thread. So we teach students a practice that's going to help you deal with feelings of overwhelmingness. I'm not sure if that's a word. So students are learning how to do yoga, meditation, and writing reflection. They pick one of those 3 tracks, a mindfulness practice that will help you. There's a student asking about, does one honors class satisfy 2 different college courses because it's taught by 2 different professors? It typically satisfies more than one general education learning outcome because of those 2 different faculty in the class. Anyway, we're at the top of the hour, so I think it's time to wrap up. We've really enjoyed spending time with you, and if any of this sounds like it's of interest, then the next step would be to start an honors application, which is easy to do on our application platform. You want to, of course, apply to Westminster first, and then reach out to myself or Alexa Price, and we can help answer further questions you might have. My email is easy to remember. It's just rjb@westminstercollege.edu. We'd love to help you continue thinking about this opportunity, and want to thank our panelists who joined us today early on a Saturday morning, and we hope to continue speaking with you. So thanks for joining us.